Alright guys, it is the day after Burnley beat Ipswich 2-1 in the FA Cup replay. And Burnley for me, I thought were the better side. I wasn't able to watch every second of the game for obvious reasons, but I saw a fair bit of it. And Burnley I thought were the better side. I thought first half, it was quite even first half. Burnley got the early, well, both teams scored the early goals actually. Nathan Teller scoring in the opening minute. It was a really good move from Burnley, involving Martson going down the left, and brilliant run. And I've heard about him doing this a few times, like throughout each game. Over the course of this season, I don't watch Burnley regularly, I'll be honest, but from what I've heard, he's a very good attacking fullback. And yeah, this in this game he showed that on multiple occasions, in fact. And yeah, brilliant play from Foster as well to let off to Teller, and Teller had a fairly simple finish. But yeah, Ipswich did well to respond fairly quickly. They got an equaliser within a couple of minutes, and yeah, came from Hurst, set up by Jackson. Yeah, it was a well worked goal. And yeah, they did have some good attacking players, in fairness, Ipswich. In fact, they had Sonny Aluko in midfield, who I remember watching for Hull about a decade ago when they were in the Premier League under Steve Bruce. I think he was part of the Hull City team that I think got to the FA Cup final in 2014. And yeah, he was a key player for that, obviously. His sister Annie, is it his sister? I think it is. Annie Aluko is more well known than him, but I thought Sonny Aluko was definitely a good player, and yeah, he nearly set up a really good goal scoring opportunity in this game as well. And yeah, it was a very even game, first half especially, and second half I thought not Villa, what did I say, Villa, Burnley. Stepped it up a notch, 100%, and yeah, did enough to win the game in the end. I know the goal didn't come till like the 94th minute, but I thought they were a lot better second half, Burnley, and I think that's partly down to the fact that Vincent Kompany made a lot of changes in this game, and even if it's a championship side or any level of football where a team consistently plays together and it gets broken up a little bit, it's obviously going to take time to get it to gel well, if that makes sense. And yeah, there were a lot of changes in this Burnley team, and yeah, I think from what I've seen, that I saw the highlights to Burnley versus Bournemouth in the previous round, and yeah, obviously Benson was the star of the show in that game, and he wasn't involved in this game, but the players that came in I thought did well, especially in the second half. Don't get me wrong, Peacock Farrell in goal for Burnley was still tested on occasions by Ipswich, and on another day Ipswich could have possibly got a second, but the second half was more convincing from Burnley, I definitely felt. And the goal at the end of the game, it was well taken by Nathan Teller once again. Really good volley. But I think the one bit of play that I was really impressed with the move was the ball up from Roberts was good, but the way that Ashley Barnes uses his body to sort of block the defender and let the ball go through to Teller, because I know Vincent Kompany has sort of changed the way that Burnley play football now. Burnley play an attractive style of football, whereas over the past decade in the Premier League under Sean Dyche, that hasn't been the case all of the time. I don't think. I don't think Burnley Burnley have been as bad a side as a lot of people like to make out. Don't get me wrong. I understand that under Sean Dyche, a lot of the time it was 4-4-2, two big lads up front in Ashley Barnes and Chris Wood, or Sam Vokes, and try and be direct, get the wide players, McNeil and Goodmanson or whoever it was, up there with them, causing problems. And yeah, it was very industrious, obviously, but I do think that the style of football they played under Sean Dyche, there were times where they could play some good football. So I do think it was a bit of a pigeonhole job at times, because I think that Burnley were a better footballing side under Sean Dyche than a lot of people make out. But anyway, back to this game. Yeah, Vincent Kompany's got them playing good football, but they still have that ability to go direct, and use Ashley Barnes off the bench like they did in this game, and it worked for them in the end. And it was a really well taken finish from Nathan Teller, the second one especially. It's coming from behind him, and he's managed to catch it sweetly and direct it right into the corner. And yeah, it did enough to win the game for Burnley late on. And Nathan Teller, I want to speak about him shortly as well, because he's now at Burnley. I think it's a loan spell from Southampton, but when he was at Southampton in the previous 2 or 3 seasons, it never felt as though he did get a proper run in the team for me. I'll be honest, when on the few occasions I did see him play, he didn't, take the league by storm by any stretch of the imagination. I don't even know if he even has scored 5 goals for Southampton in the Premier League, but he's clearly shows in this game that he has got ability. And yeah, Burnley, they're top of the Championship. Let's face it, they're going to get promoted this season. But you always feel a little less confident when teams get promoted up to the Premier League from the Championship now, because it does feel as though the gap between the 2 leagues is sort of growing a little bit because of the amount of spending that gets done by the Premier League teams. The Premier League spends pretty much more than every other league in the world combined, it feels like. So yeah, it will be a difficult task, but I think teams like Fulham this season and Nottingham Forest as well have showed that it's not impossible to do well once you've been promoted in the Premier League. Fulham are chasing a European spot at the minute. Forest, they were struggling in the first few months of the season, but since the return of football after Premier League football after the World Cup, they've definitely improved. And I think I saw something actually where in a 2023 league table, Nottingham Forest are actually top of the league, which sounds incredible when you put it like that, but they have been in a really good run of form recently. So when Burnley go up, it will be interesting to see. It's a very different Burnley team to the team that they had last season. They had to recruit a lot of players, had to get rid of a lot of players, but they still do have a couple of players that were there last season, the likes of Connor Roberts, as I've said, Ashley Barnes, even Josh Brownhill and Goodmanson came off the bench, Peacock Farrell as well. I know he wasn't really used much by Burnley whilst they were in the Premier League in the past few seasons, as they did have obviously Nick Pope. But it's not like a complete change. That there are still some old faces, but then again, I think it is comparable to Nottingham Forest as well. Obviously, just with the amount of money spent on these players, because Forest has spent probably the best part of 200 million at least now on players since last summer. Burnley do not have that budget at all, as Sean Dyche found out. But Vincent Kompany so far is doing a fantastic job at Burnley, and it will be interesting to see how they do next season in the Premier League. Ipswich, I know I'll be honest, I really don't know much about them, but I think they're fighting for a promotion place in League One up to the Championship, and I think Ipswich are a team who probably should be in the Championship given the size of the club. They are a pretty big club. I think they also won the FA Cup, I think I'm right in saying, in 1978, I think. So, definitely not a small club at all. In fact, I know Man City are often joked about as a small club, but that obviously they're a big club now. I think if you go back to like 2010, they had won a trophy more recently than Man City, which sounds incredible saying that right now. But um, yeah, well, if the rumours are to be believed, they could still have won a trophy more recently than Manchester City. If Man City do get stripped of all their trophies, which I find, which I think will be unlikely, as and also Vincent Company I think has said something similar himself. But yeah, Ipswich are definitely a club that should be in the Championship, I personally believe. But yeah, this was a really impressive performance from Burnley. Enough players still there. I've completely forgotten about it, as well as Jack Cork. So yeah, definitely still some old faces still at Burnley. But yeah, it was an impressive performance. They're through to the next round. Thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you next time.